where the ANC is holding its 55th National Conference. My name is Tshidi Madia, Associate Editor for Politics at Eyewitness News. We've been here every day trying to bring you updates. We continue waiting to hear how members of the ANC want to see the leadership collective being shaped going forward. They voted last night. They were counting votes into the early hours. As I speak to you now, we are waiting to go back into the plenary where they'll announce the top 7 officials who will be at the helm of the organization going forward. I'm not alone. I'm joined by 2 guests who are going to help us make sense of where the program is at the moment and what the ANC's future needs to be. First, I'm joined by Derek Hanekom, outgoing NEC member. I think you're retiring from political life. I don't see you, Derek, coming back in the next 5 years for a conference.
No.
And I'm joined by Editor-in-Chief of Eyewitness News, Mrs. Ngalwa, as well. So we've had a lot of long waits. It's day 4. And from the outside perspective, very little has happened. If we're looking at what's out in the public, never mind the caucuses, very little has happened in our eyes.
Yeah. And I think once it gets to this point, Tshidi, the only thing remaining now is that anyone can speculate. And I see on Twitter already some people are coming up with a little speculation. But I'd say at this point, there's not that much to wait. You know, the voting is done, and I'm sure the counting and the recounting and disputes. But I'm sure the reason why we're still sitting here, and if I look at my watch, it's 25 minutes to 11, and I'm sure that's why we still do not know what the results are. But I'm confident that, in fact, I'm not even confident, that's how it has to go. You know, there will be a leader by the end of the day. But the question is, will Mr. Hanekom be happy with that outcome or not?
There's been a question to you that I actually want to hear an answer to. What are your thoughts about the outcome? First, can we find out how you voted? Or is your vote a secret in this moment?
Well, my vote in CD, you know, you shoot straight into the difficult questions.
Yes, we want to know.
Everyone's vote is their secret if they want to keep it secret. No, mine is not a secret because I've been consistently supporting a particular campaign and I voted in accordance with our collective view, and I can tell you exactly what it is. I voted, do you want to know?
Yes, name them. We saw the lineup, but actually name them.
Name them and shame them. I voted obviously for the President Ramaphosa, for Deputy President, because that was our collective decision, and that was a last-minute decision for Oscar Mabuyane as Deputy President. I voted for Gwede Mantashe as National Chairperson. I voted for Tina Jumat Peterson as the Deputy Secretary General. Marupene Ramakgopa as the 2nd Deputy Secretary General, Fikile Mbalula as the Secretary General, and Gwen Ramakgopa as the Treasurer General. That was the lineup of 7. That was our final agreement as a campaign, as a group, and I believe most of us would have been loyal to that. And so I expect the outcome to closely resemble that. It won't necessarily be such for every position, but I suspect it would be closely resembling that, because I do believe that we have the majority support in this conference.
And if the results come out in a short while and it's not Cyril Ramaphosa but it's Willem Kize, what does that then mean for the ANC and for the country going forward from your perspective?
Yeah, well, that might mark one of the differences between ourselves as a campaign and what we stood for, and some other people who might stand for something quite different. Where we started off, quite clear that we weren't a CR22 campaign. We are a renewal campaign, and with Cyril Ramaphosa being at the head of it, but you know, he heading it has to lead a renewal program with a team of people around him, so we're very clear about that. We've also called on our supporting delegates to show a high level of discipline. It's not just about who you vote for, but it's also about how you conduct yourself. You can't stand for renewal and then act in an ill-disciplined manner. So we would be disappointed from our side, but we would accept the outcome. We are not challenging the integrity of the Electoral Committee. It is an NEC-approved Electoral Committee headed by somebody like Kgalema Motlanthe, a man of great integrity. So we will accept the outcome. Disappointed, but I'm not that sure that
you'll be disappointed at all.
No, I'm not. Well, I don't believe I'll be disappointed, but I'm not that sure that other people will accept the outcome that readily as well. But I hope they do. I certainly hope they do.
But why would you say that, though?
Signals that one is getting, but we shouldn't be alarmed.
Elaborate a little bit on those signals. What are you seeing?
What am I seeing?
When you speak of signals, what are you seeing that makes you believe that the other side will not accept an outcome that has Ramaphosa, I suppose, still as the head of the ANC?
Okay, so firstly, Tshidi, there isn't one other side. I think there are other sides.
Multiple pockets, yes. a lot of
Multiple
interest,
pockets,
yeah.
right. And we certainly saw one of those pockets hell-bent on disrupting the conference when the conference started. So for them, it was fine for the conference just to be abandoned and disrupted. So, one cannot have a very high, in any way, any confidence in those particular individuals simply accepting the outcome because they do not want Cyril Ramaphosa as their president, and it's like a do or die for them, for some of them. They see things happening under the leadership of Cyril Ramaphosa, and they feel they could be the victim of it, not unfairly victimized in their minds perhaps, but as we strengthen our institutions who are responsible for law enforcement, some of them could be the victims of that. Some of them may be facing prison sentences, and they might feel that if there's somebody else at the helm, they could enjoy some kind of protection. But I'm speculating on that. I can't speak on their behalf.
Sure.
But what I'm not speculating on is what we saw in conference on Friday morning.
Friday.
Yeah.
I want to move on to Sbu, but I won't. Sbu will have to park just slightly.
Sure.
You're calling them some. I'll call a thing. You are referring to former President Jacob Zuma. Former President Jacob Zuma might have been a branch delegate, has the right to sit amongst the branches, but he's also a former leader. That's an ex officio.
Yeah.
So you could have also sat with all the other leaders who are on the stage. Part and parcel of that particular decision has been read as an attempt to collapse the conference. I make an argument that he wouldn't have gotten this far with whatever his plans are, if you believe are to destabilize the ANC, were he not being allowed to carry on the way that he has over the past 5 years. That's an indictment on my part on an NEC that you served with. I don't think you acted correctly in dealing with him and reining him in. As an NEC, why?
Well, firstly, I think that there's truth in what you say. One does expect some kind of integrity and some kind of discipline from former presidents of the ANC, who've served in the NEC and as president for a long, long time. In fact, he should not have been allowed to participate in this conference because he's been charged. It's not like there are rumors or allegations. He's actually been indicted to appear in front of a court of a court of law, and furthermore, he's been found guilty of perjury, contempt of court. He's been found guilty of it. So he should not have been allowed to participate in this conference at all. But I would certainly hope that you wanted to come in, Tshidi.
I do want to come in. I'm sure you can see behind me, media is now making its way into the plenary. What that signals is that they're almost ready to make that announcement about the top 7 officials. So I will be wrapping up relatively soon. So I just wanted your own views very quickly to come in. I've noticed a big push and pull, and maybe Derek will also weigh in on this. I've noticed a big push and pull between provincial leaders versus branches themselves and regions, where previously we've seen the ANC having provincial leaders enjoy that much dominance over ANC life, dictating the way forward. I suspect we'll have a mixed bag of results, in part because branches are saying, no, you don't have the right to do so. What's been your observation?
I think I've pretty much observed the same. In fact, you can contrast this city to 2017. And I'm sure most of us recall that one last big caucus of the so-called Premier League. And these were premiers and chairmen of provinces who were considered powerful men who could command their branches and their delegates to vote in a particular fashion. But I think it's been interesting to see what is happening here, where, for instance, in the case of Limpopo, you've heard the provincial leadership pronounce on Zwelim Kize, which was different from what the PGC of that province had decided on. And we actually saw regional leaders come out to say, not in our name, this is how we decided. I think that's important for the ANC. It's also important for internal democracy within the ANC, in that let the branches at the end of the day decide. But I think though the reality here at Tshidi is that yes, you'll still see slates. Mr. Hanekom speaks about their own lineup, but even within their own lineup, there is the issue of the deputy presidents.
They're fighting amongst each other.
Exactly.
Not fighting.
Well,
there are difference of
candidates,
opinions, Derek. I'm about to wrap up. Just for you. Ramaphosa presumably wins this thing. That's what we're hearing.
Yeah.
He wins though with a Pala scandal over his head. How important is it that he acts? How important is it that he then is seen to be more decisive as a leader, because he remains head of state as well. How important is it that he thinks about who he wants to be going forward, considering that a fight has started, and I imagine will follow him regardless of whether he leaves, well, no matter who he leaves here with as part of the leadership collective?
Yeah, I mean, good question. Firstly, we would like him to be more decisive, but we'd also like it to be more possible for him to be decisive. In other words, with a team around him that are supportive, you know, with the same values and the same intentions, and supporting and encouraging him to be quite decisive on matters that are of national interest and organizational interest. Just a quick one. I know you wanted to stop on because you mentioned Pala Pala. In a way, Pala Pala has strengthened the popularity and support for the president. I'll tell you now why.
Okay.
Because I'm
reading
your face. I'm reading your face.
Correctly?
Okay, so because, again, he acted with integrity in response to the Pala Pala issue. He said that quite clearly and consistently that if I am charged, or if there's any strong evidence that shows that I was guilty of an unlawful act, I will resign as president of the ANC. I will step aside as the president of the ANC. He said that very clearly, and he was prepared to do it. And even now, he challenged the panel report, took it on review. We supported his right to do so. We ourselves identified a number of inconsistencies and some fundamental flaws in the report, and having given that, it would have made sense, and did make sense, to not adopt the report. And that was the ANC position. But to end, Cyril Ramaphosa puts the interests of South Africa and the ANC before his own interests.
We wait to see. Thank you so much. Derek Hanekom, Ngalwa joining me. As I said, media is now rushing into plenary. Stay tuned. We'll find out who the ANC's top 7 are in a short while. TikTok, stay tuned. Eyewitness News SA. For Eyewitness News, my name is Tshidi Madia.